Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. I am Dr. Asad and today we discuss bronchodilators drugs used in the treatment of asthma. The lungs are the principal respiratory organs that are situated on each side of the mediastinum in the thoracic cavity and are covered by visceral pleura. The structure of the lung has to be understood keeping in mind their function of oxygenation of blood. So this is the intrapulmonary passage. On entering the lung, the principal bronchus divides into secondary or lobar bronchi, one for each lobe. Each lobar bronchus divides into tertiary or segmental bronchi, one for each segment of the lobe. The segmental bronchi divide into smaller and smaller bronchi, which ultimately ends in bronchioles. The lung substance is divided into numerous lobules, each of which receive a lobular bronchiole. The lobular bronchiole gives off number of terminal bronchioles. As indicated by their name, the terminal bronchioles represent the most distal part of the conducting passage. Each terminal bronchiole ends by dividing into respiratory bronchioles. This is the respiratory bronchiole. These are so called because they are partly respiration in function, as some air sacs arise from them. These are the air sacs. Each respiratory bronchiole ends by dividing into a few alveolar ducts. These are the alveolar ducts. Each alveolar duct ends in a passage, the atrium. This is the atrium, which leads into a number of rounded alveolar sacs. This is the alveolar sac, rounded alveolar sacs. Each alveolar sac is studded with a number of air sacs or alveoli. The alveoli are blind sacs having very thin wall through which oxygen passes from air into blood and carbon dioxide passes from blood into air. The structure of the larger intrapulmonary bronchi is similar to that of the trachea. As these bronchi divide into smaller ones, the following changes in structure are observed. The cartilages in the walls of the bronchi becomes irregular in shape and are progressively smaller. Cartilage is absent in the wall of bronchioles. This is the criteria that distinguishes a bronchiole from the bronchus. The amount of muscle in the bronchial wall increases as the bronchi becomes smaller. The presence of muscle in the wall of bronchi is of considerable clinical significance. A spasm of this muscle constricts the bronchi and cause difficulty in breathing. Today is our topic, asthma. We discuss difficulty in breathing. Now, these are some of the cells, different cells present in the air passages. It is the typical ciliated columna. This is the typical ciliated columna. B, these are the basal cells. B, this is the basal cells. C, goblet cells. C, these are the goblet cells. D, these are the serous cells. This is the serous cells. E, it's a brush border. F, cells of Clara, we will discuss. And G represents the aerophile cells. Goblet cells are numerous. They provide mucus which helps to trap dust entering the passage and is moved by ciliary action towards the larynx and pharynx. Non-ciliated serous cells secrete fluid that keeps the epithelium moist. Basal cells multiply and transform into other cells to replace those that are lost. Some non-ciliated cells present predominantly in terminal bronchioles produce a secretion that spreads over the alveolar cells, forming a film that reduces surface tension. These include the cells of Clara. The cells of Clara, they protect against harmful substances that are inhaled. Uh, they protect against development of emphysema by opposing the action of substances, proteases, that tends to destroy wall of the lung alveoli, and they act as a stem cell function. Cells similar to diffuse endocrine cells of the gut and containing erythrophoric granules are present. They secrete hormones and active peptides including serotonin. Lymphocytes and other leukocytes may be present in the epithelium. They migrate into the epithelium from the surrounding tissue. Now this is the major bronchial divisions and the fissures, lobes and segments of the lung. The major bronchial division and the fissure, lobes and segment of the lung, the angle of the oblique fissure. The angle of the oblique fissure, this is the angle of the oblique fissure. The angle of the oblique fissure means that the left upper lobe is largely anterior to the lower lobe. On the right, the transverse fissure, this is the transverse fissure. On the right, the transverse fissure separates the upper from the anteriorly placed middle lobe, which is matched by the lingular segment on the left side. The site of the lobe determines whether physical signs are mainly anterior or posterior. Each lobe is composed of two or more bronchopulmonary segments that are supplied by the main branches of each lobar bronchus. Now the functional anatomy of the lung. We have three portions in it, A, B and C. This is A, then we have B and this is C. In A, the tapering branching bronchus is armed against compression by plates of the cartilage. The more distant bronchioles are collapsible but held patent by surrounding elastic tissues. Number B, the unit of lung supplied by a terminal bronchiole is called an acinus. The bronchiolar wall contains smooth muscle and elastic fibers. The latter also run through the alveolar walls. Gas exchange occur in the alveoli, which are connected with each other by the pores of Kohns. These are the pores of Kohns. Exchange occurs through these pores between the alveoli. C, the vascular anatomy of the acinus. Both the pulmonary artery carrying desaturated blood and the bronchial artery, systemic supply to airway tissue, run along the bronchus. These are the pulmonary artery. I just discussed the pulmonary artery carrying desaturated blood and the bronchial artery, systemic supply to the airway tissues, runs along the bronchus. The venous drainage, this is the pulmonary vein or the venous drainage. The venous drainage to the left atrium follows the interlobular septum. This is the schematic representation of the overlap between chronic obstructive lung diseases. In bronchial asthma, there is impairment of airflow due to contraction of bronchial smooth muscles, which is known as bronchospasm. Secondly, swelling of the bronchial mucosa, which is known as mucosal edema, and increased bronchial mucus secretions. There is inflammation and hyperresponsiveness of the airway. Several factors may precipitate attack of asthma in susceptible individuals. They include allergy, infection, and psychological factors. Air obstruction in asthma is mainly due to release of mediators from the sensitized mast cells in the lung. They are histamine, serotonin, prostaglandin, leukotrienes, and platelet activating factors. Bronchial asthma may be either episodic or chronic. Acute asthma, by definition, is characterized by episodes of dyspnea associated with expiratory wheeze. Chronic asthma, there is continuous wheeze and breathlessness on exertion. Cough and mucoid sputum with recurrent respiratory infection are common. Status asthmaticus, which is known as acute severe asthma. When an attack of asthma is prolonged with severe intractable wheeze, it is known as acute severe asthma. Now in this slide, you can see that this airway disease, these two, emphysema, alveolar wall destruction or overinflation. Emphysema is characterized by permanent enlargement of the air spaces distal to the terminal bronchioles, accompanied by destruction of their walls without significant fibrosis. And by definition, chronic bronchitis, which is productive cough and with airway inflammation, is diagnosed on clinical grounds. It is defined by the presence of a persistent productive cough for at least 3 consecutive months in at least 2 consecutive years. And this asthma, I just discussed you in detail. This is reversible obstruction, bronchial hyperresponsiveness triggered by allergen, infection, etc., or the psychological factor. Now this emphysema and this chronic bronchitis, it almost cover almost 40% with each other. The sign symptoms are in correlation with each other, and asthma is combination of all. The mechanisms of response to inhaled irritants. The mechanisms of response to inhaled irritants, the airway is represented microscopically by a cross section of the wall with branching vagal sensory endings lying adjacent to the lumen. Afferent fibers, vagal afferent fibers, in the vagus nerve travel to the central nervous system. Efferent pathway, this efferent pathway, the efferent pathway from the central nervous system travel to efferent ganglia. Postganglionic fiber release acetylcholine. These are the postganglionic fibers. These are the postganglionic fibers release acetylcholine. This is the preganglionic fibers, and these are the postganglionic fibers. They release acetylcholine. Postganglionic fibers release acetylcholine, which binds to muscarinic receptor on airway smooth muscle, or muscarinic receptor on airway smooth muscle. These acetylcholine on airway smooth muscle. This is the smooth muscle, muscarinic smooth. Inhaled material may provoke bronchoconstriction by several possible mechanisms. First, they may trigger the release of chemical mediators from the mast cell. Second, they may stimulate afferent receptors to initiate reflux bronchoconstriction or release of tachykinase, that is substance P, that directly stimulate smooth muscle contraction. The conceptual model for the immunopathogenesis of asthma. Exposure to allergens causes synthesis of IgE, which binds to mast cell in the airway mucosa. On re-exposure to allergen, antigen-antibody interaction on mast cell surfaces triggers release of mediators of anaphylaxis. like histamine, tryptase, prostaglandins, leukotrienes, and platelet activating factors. These agents provoke contraction of airway smooth muscle, causing the immediate fall in forced expiratory volume in 1 second. Re-exposure to allergen can cause the synthesis and release of a variety of cytokines like interleukin 4 and 5. These are the interleukin 4 and 5 on the re-exposure. Granulocyte macrophage colony stimulating factors, tumor necrosis factor, and the tissue growth factors. These are all named here. These cytokines in turn attract and activate eosinophils and neutrophils, whose products include eosinophil cationic proteins, major basic proteins, proteases, and platelet activating factors. These mediators cause the edema, mucus hypersecretion, a smooth muscle contraction, and increase in bronchial reactivity associated with the late asthmatic response, indicated by a second fall in forced expiratory volume 3 to 6 hours after the exposure. The bronchodilation and bronchoconstriction mechanism. The bronchodilation is promoted by cyclic AMP. This bronchodilation is promoted by cyclic AMP. Intracellular cyclic AMP can be increased by beta adenoreceptor agonists. These are the beta adenoreceptor agonists, which increases the rate of its synthesis by adenyl cyclase. This is the adenyl cyclase. AC represents the adenyl cyclase, or by phosphodiesterase, We will discuss these two drugs. This is the phosphodiesterase inhibitors such as theophylline, which slows the rate of its degradation. Bronchoconstriction can be inhibited by muscarinic antagonists. These are the muscarinic antagonists inhibit bronchoconstriction, and possibly by adenosine antagonists. These are the adenosine antagonists. This is the management approach in adults based on asthma. This ICS is the abbreviation of inhaled corticosteroids. That we have this LABA, which represent long-acting beta-2 agonist. Then we have this LAMA term. It represents long-acting muscarinic antagonist. And LTRA, leukotriene receptor antagonist, and SR represents sustained release. The drugs used in asthma, we divide in a few classes like bronchodilators. Today's topic on bronchodilators, which include beta agonists, muscarinic antagonists, and methylxanthines. The next lecture will be on anti-inflammatory agents, which include release inhibitors, steroids, slow anti-inflammatory drugs, and antibodies. The third classification is leukotriene antagonists, which include lipoxidase inhibitors and receptor inhibitors. Pathophysiology of asthma. The immediate cause of bronchoconstriction is the release of mediators from IgE sensitized mast cells. The other cells include the immunological responses. These mediators include the leukotrienes C4 and D4. Additionally, chemotactic mediators such as leukotriene B4 attract inflammatory cells to the airways. Finally, several cytokines and some enzymes are released, leading to chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation leads to marked bronchial hyperreactivity to various inhaled substances, which include antigens, histamines, muscarinic agonists, irritants such as sulfur dioxide, and cold air. Strategies of asthma therapy. The acute bronchospasm must be treated promptly and effectively with bronchodilators. Such a strategy, the drugs which used are known as reliever drugs, which include beta agonists, muscarinic antagonists, theophylline, and its derivatives. The long-term preventive treatment requires control of the inflammatory processes in the airways. The drugs used in long-term prevention of the asthma, these are known as controller. Corticosteroids are the important anti-inflammatory drugs in the treatment of chronic asthma. Long-term beta-2 agonist can improve the response to corticosteroids. Anti-IgE antibodies also appear promising for chronic therapy. Leukotriene antagonists have effects on both bronchoconstriction and inflammation, but are usually used only for prophylaxis. Beta adrenoceptor agonist. Beta adrenoceptor agonist, prototypes and pharmacokinetics. The most important sympathomimetics used to reverse asthmatic bronchoconstriction are the direct-acting beta-2 selective agonists. Of the indirect-acting sympathomimetics, ephedrine was once used but is now obsolete for this application. Short-acting agents, which include albuterol, terbutaline, and metoprolol. Long-acting beta-2 selective agonist agents are salmeterol, formoterol, and indapterol. Indacaterol is currently approved only for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Beta agonists are given almost exclusively by inhalation. The inhalation route decreases the systemic dose and adverse effects, while delivering an effective dose locally to the airway smooth muscle. The older drugs have duration of action of 6 hours or less, whereas salmeterol, formoterol act for 12 to 24 hours. Mechanism and effects. Beta adrenoceptor agonists stimulate adenyl cyclase and increase cyclic adenosine monophosphate in smooth muscles. The increase in cyclic AMP results in a powerful bronchodilator response. Clinical use and toxicity. Sympathomimetics are first-line therapy in acute asthma. Short-acting sympathomimetics are the drug of choice for acute episodes of bronchospasm. Their effects last for 4 hours or less, and they are not effective for prophylaxis. Salmeterol and formoterol should be used for prophylaxis, in which their 12-hour duration of action is useful. They shouldn't be used for acute episode because their onset of action is too slow. Furthermore, used alone, they increase asthma mortality, whereas in combination with corticosteroids, they improve control. In almost all patients, the shorter acting beta agonists are the most effective bronchodilators available and are life-saving for the acute asthma. A skeletal muscle tremor is a common adverse beta-2 effect. At high clinical dose, these agents have significant beta-1 effects. Even when they are given by inhalation, some cardiac effects, tachycardia is common. When the agents are used excessively, arrhythmia may occur. Loss of responsiveness, tolerance or tachyphylaxis is an unwanted effect of excessive use of short-acting sympathomimetics. Methylxanthines. Methylxanthines are purine derivatives. 3 major methylxanthines are found in plants and provide to stimulate the effects of 3 common beverages: Number one is caffeine in coffee, theophylline in tea, and theobromine in coca. Theophylline is the only member of this group that is important in the treatment of asthma. This drug and several analogues are orally active and available as various salts and as the base. Theophylline is available in both prompt release and slow release forms. Theophylline is eliminated by P450 drug metabolizing enzymes in the liver. Clearance varies with age, highest in young adolescents. Smoking status, higher in smokers, and concurrent use of other drugs that inhibit or induce hepatic enzymes. Mechanism of action and effects. The methylxanthines inhibit phosphodiesterase, the enzyme that degrades cyclic AMP to AMP, and thus increase cyclic AMP. This anti-PDE effect, however, requires high concentration of the drug. Methylxanthines also block adenosine receptor in the central nervous system and elsewhere. But a relation between this action and the bronchodilating effect has not been clearly established. Clinical use and toxicity. The major clinical use of methylxanthine is asthma and COPD. Slow release theophylline for control of nocturnal asthma is the most commonly used methylxanthine. The non-medical use of methylxanthine in coffee, tea, and coca is far greater in total quantities consumed than the medical uses of the drug. The common adverse effects of methylxanthines include GIT distress, tremors, and insomnia. Muscarinic antagonists. Atropine and other naturally occurring belladonna alkaloids were used for many years in the treatment of asthma, but have been replaced by ipratropium, a quaternary antimuscarinic agent designed for aerosol use. This drug is delivered to the airways by pressurized aerosol and also little systemic action. Tiotropium is a longer acting analog. Mechanism of action. When given by aerosol, ipratropium and tiotropium competitively block muscarinic receptors in the airways and effectively prevent bronchoconstriction mediated by vagal discharge. If given systematically, not in approved use, these drugs are indistinguishable from other short-acting muscarinic blockers. Muscarinic antagonists reverse bronchoconstriction in some asthmatic patients, especially children, and in many patients with COPD. They have no effect on the chronic inflammatory aspect of asthma. Clinical uses with toxicity. Ipratropium and tiotropium are useful in 1/3 to 2/3 of asthmatic patients. Beta-2 agonists are effective in almost all. For acute bronchospasm, there is beta agonists are usually preferred.